Well, everything was right with Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt yesterday. A really fun broadcast. Greg now joining us live, Fox Sports. I said Friday, I think Dallas matches up well with Philadelphia. I just don't trust Dallas with 3 minutes to go. So as it was unraveling, you're sitting up in the booth. Explain to me, Dak's been in the league 8 years, McCarthy 17. Isn't it fair for me to say, Greg, they got to be better on those last drives, don't they?
Yeah, and I don't even know if it was – first off, I thought Dak was excellent.
Yes.
Pretty much the entire game. I mean, I thought he played really well. I mean, he was clean, no turnovers. I thought Dak was excellent, as was obviously Jalen Hurts. But in regards, we said it. They got the ball with like 4:47, 4:48 or something like that, just under 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, down by 5. He had failed on the 2-point conversion, stepped out of bounds by 6 inches. We said on the broadcast, you have to be careful, right? You don't want to say, okay, this is the game-winning drive, go slow and get one shot at it, knowing you need a touchdown. You got all 3 timeouts. You're going to save those for defense. But you want to make sure that you go up-tempo now. Go 2 minute and say, okay, if I don't score on this possession, I got 3 timeouts. Philly, for the most part, is going to try to run the clock, get the game at least under the 2 minute and make you waste all your timeouts. And then if you do get the ball back, how much time is left to get a second possession to go down and try to win the game? And I just thought they went so slow. They ended up getting the ball. They went 32 yards when they went to the 2 minute warning. And then it really became that was their final shot. They got to 3rd and 20 plus, and because of it was either a sack or a penalty, they got behind the sticks. And then the last drive kind of defied all odds, getting the ball at the 14-yard line under a minute. But I thought it was the second to last drive of the game. They needed to play with a little bit more urgency in the event you do fail and need to try to get the ball back. When you do get it back for what's now the last drive, you have more than a minute. You actually have some time to run a real 2 minute drive. I thought that was the area they could have been a little bit better by playing faster.
So it's, I'm not in those meeting rooms, but I watched Philadelphia on 3rd down, best team in the league. 4th down, best team in the league. I watch them against the Commanders and the Cowboys. Who do I give credit to for their situational excellence? When I watch Cincinnati, it's Burrow. But I mean, Philly's got a young coach, a young quarterback, a young coordinator. Now, they do have a great veteran O-line, but there's something about this team. Winning ugly is a talent. You know this. You've been on teams that win ugly and lose those games. Who do I give credit to in Philadelphia? Because this is now what they are, Greg. They win these games 7 out of 8 times.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to everything they do about situational football. A lot's been made, of course, this year. The fun storyline is the quarterback sneak, the tush push, whatever you want to call it. And we said this numerous times, like, yes, that is the highlight. That is the exclamation point that makes them such a fun conversation. But every decision they make, everything they do from a philosophical approach, both offensively and defensively, all fits onto the same platform that they are going to be aggressive. They are in 4-down territory the second they get around midfield, and they are going to play that 100% of the time. Nick Sirianni's not going to waver. They could fail on a 4th down. Doesn't happen a lot. It happened 2 weeks ago against Washington. It is not going to alter. He's the guy that's going to hit on 16 on blackjack 100 times in a row, even if he 99 in a row breaks. He just believes in when you can be so consistent in your approach and everything you do is about finding the smallest advantage in situational ball, extending drives with 4th downs, you can base your entire offensive and defensive play call knowing that that's going to be a constant. That's never going to waver. They're never going to get wrapped up in the gut feeling, a gut emotion. No, they are going to play it the same way every single time. And that is such an advantage in the NFL. And I think a lot of coaches, they're fearful of going on 4th down very often because they don't want the blowback. They don't want to be second guessed. They don't want to be the conversation on talk radio. Nick Sirianni has shown he doesn't care. They have completely bought into the style. And you ask who gets the credit. I mean, obviously Sirianni's one who sets the philosophy. I think Jalen Hurts is remarkable. I think the transformation that he has made coming into the league as really a dual threat guy who really was more leaning on his legs early in his career to only now 3 years later as a full-time starter to be a true pocket passer. I mean, they are a passing team in Philadelphia. So I think he deserves a lot of the credit too. But man, I'll tell you, they don't leave one, the winning percentage gets thrown around a lot. And I know a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at it. Nobody gains more winning percentage with decision making than Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles.
You've done a lot of these Eagle games because they've been great for 2 years. Are they? There's more turnovers, but I know I'm in the minority here. If my quarterback's throwing it downfield, I'll take an occasional pick. You watched them last year and called these games. You've watched them this year. I want you to take last year's team this year, because by the way, I don't think Hurts is healthy now. I didn't think he was healthy last year. Are they as good as last year's team? Are they different? What are they?
I think offensively they have a chance to potentially even be better. I don't think they're there yet. I think they still have some things they're working out. I think they still want to have that element of the run game when they do have the lead, right? You pass to get the lead and then you run to finish the game. I think they still want to have that killer instinct with the run game to be able to run that clock out yesterday and not give the ball back to Dallas. So, of course, there's some minor things. You mentioned the turnovers. The balance that everyone is facing, and this is something Dallas went through early in the year, and I think they've really done a nice job finding what this balance is. The greatest indicator of winning games is obviously who scores the most points. That's obvious. But the correlation between having a downfield aggressive passing game and the ability to point and put up points, that's the biggest significant factor. The problem with aggressive play calling, as you said, it does make you a little bit more turnover prone.
Yeah.
Some teams are good enough to overcome it. And I think that's the point with Philadelphia. Yep. They don't have to play clean. They don't have to play perfectly. I think that's what makes them such a challenge is they can win so many different style games, ugly, high scoring, low scoring, run game, of high flying 30-point shootout. They can win there's so many different pathways for them to win. And that's just not the reality. Most NFL teams have a very specific path to victory. This is our formula. The second we get off the rails, the game is over. Philly's the complete opposite, and they're able to be a little bit more aggressive because a lot of the times they play with an extra down and fourth down. That's in their back pocket. And they have the ability and the approach to overcome a turnover or a 3-and-out or some things that, frankly, other teams just aren't good enough to overcome.
Yeah, I thought at one point Jalen threw a deep ball into triple coverage on A.J. Brown, but I validated it. I'm like, well, A.J.'s hot. If it's picked, it's a punt. What do I care? So to your point, when they got so much inertia within this organization. So I did think one thing about Dallas that's pretty clear. I felt like they got pushed around by the Niners. And I watched this game, and I saw Philadelphia in the second half holding tight ends back. They had that's a great O-line. And they were acknowledging, we're going to keep tight ends in here. This is a handful. I kind of came out of this and I thought, that's about as good a loss as you can have in the league. I thought Dallas's defensive front, we're talking Lane Johnson, Kelsey. These are Hall of Famers. The left tackle. I thought Dallas gave Philly troubles up front at times. What was your takeaway? Because you're there.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think that the game got out of whack for Dallas there at the start of the third quarter, allowing Philly to take the opening drive and go down and score and then get the ball back. They got 14 in 2 possessions to start the third quarter. That's when Dallas gave the lead up and ended up playing the rest of the half, trailing. That's obviously where the game turned. But I'm with you. I think when you go back and the cliche, there's no moral victories. You're not going to stand there. But I think if I'm Mike McCarthy and I'm Dak Prescott and I'm going to be honest with myself and really assess this game, we're an inch away on a little fourth down RPO on the goal line that, the kid's knee, hits Schoonmaker's knee hits the ground, 6 inches shy of the goal line from scoring. Then Dak has a chance to cut it to 3 and he makes a great attempt at the pylon. His toe just catches the sideline and steps out of bounds. Or else there at the end of the game, they got the ball inside the 10 before they took the penalty and the sack. And next thing you know, they're either scoring to win the game or at least they have a field goal in their back pocket to tie it. So, again, that game yesterday, they outgained Philly. Yep. I thought Dak played really well. But, again, it goes back to Philly is a hard beat. Even though you feel like you outplay them, even though you might beat them in the box score, you have to beat them soundly. You have to beat them in situational football. You can't miss a fourth down try on the goal line. You can't miss a 2-point play. They put so much pressure on you to be perfect. And Dallas was as close as you could get. I actually thought that formula that Dallas played yesterday more times than not is going to win a lot of games. The question is, when they get to the playoffs, can you beat the top teams? And I think that's the part they're still trying to figure out. But I'm with you. I think Dallas I think they wake up this morning saying we can go toe-to-toe with everybody. It's a lot different Monday morning than it was after that Sunday night game a few weeks ago against San Francisco.
Yeah, if you think about it, Greg, they're mirror images. Both have a mobile quarterback who's accurate. Both have a star receiver you can't defend. Both have elite O-lines. Both have excellent pass rushes. Corners worry both of us. Both are good enough at safety. Both have good backs, not a superstar. The difference, I mean, really, they're mirror images of O-line, star receiver, quarterback that moves. Both teams are great at home. The difference is situationally, Philadelphia is really good. And that last pass to CeeDee Lamb that gets stopped at the goal line, Philadelphia literally lined up and just said, line up at the goal line and go forward. Is that practiced? It looks so thorough by Philly. Is that practiced?
Yeah, it's practiced every week. You have end-of-game situations, both offensively and defensively. A lot of teams either do them on Friday because they want to do them full speed, or a lot of people just do them Saturday morning in kind of their mock game scrimmage. But yeah, you have end-of-game, whether you call it, victory or whatever you call it defensively, where they're going to have a very specific personnel group, very specific plan to rush the passer up front. Everyone knows the quarterback needs to buy time based on what yard line you're on to allow the ball to actually reach the end zone to some receivers. So it's all based on what yard line. That determines how many guys you rush, the style in which you rush, and then, of course, where the defenders line up based on how far the quarterback's able to get the ball downfield. So none of that is by chance, on both sides of the ball. That is all very specific. That is all very pre-planned. And, I thought Philly got a little dicey there in that last drive.
Yes.
They had the pass interference on first down. They kind of bailed Dallas out and gave him the ball at midfield. Bradbury exited with an injury. Then the next play, Slay exited with an injury. So they played a couple. They had no timeout, so they couldn't catch their breath on defense, and they were reeling a little bit. But to their credit, Bradbury was able to come back in. They were able to make the big sack. I think another thing that they want to reconsider, Dak takes the sack, of course, which was a backbreaker. But instead of they had everyone in the end zone, instead of running everybody bound and just getting lined up and clocking it, and maybe you got two shots now at the end zone, they attempted another deep pass. Dak took a snap under center. Everything, just all end zone. There was no play. It's just everyone run to the end zone. So the clock continued to run throughout the entire snap, drop, and long throw. So it left them like 5-6 seconds left. So they only had one attempt at the end zone. I think if they would have clocked it once they got everybody back from the sack, they might have had time to do a short pass to get the ball closer to the end zone. And then your second, that would be fourth down now. You spiked it on second. Third, you try to get the ball out of bounds knowing they're defending deep. And now maybe a fourth down, last play of the game, the ball can actually reach the end zone as opposed to, they hit CeeDee Lamb on the 3-yard line. So I think all those little details, they'll still continue to sort out. There's a lot going on, but sometimes that's the difference in winning or losing a game. It's that close when you have two teams of that caliber.
By the way, you played in a lot of big games. I just wonder, when you watch a game like that, is that one of those moments when you're like, God, I'd love to have the pads on? Or are you just glad you're up with Kevin in the booth? Because that kind of game, if you were a pro athlete, I'm like, this intensity, it feels like the NFC Championship. I mean, it was goosebump stuff. How is that for you, just fairly recently removed from the game?
Yeah, I mean, the intensity was felt in the booth. I think at times our producer had to kind of get in my ear. He's like, okay, take a deep breath. Like, I get just as excited watching good football as the fans or as the players on the sideline. And sometimes I got to remind myself to tone down on the broadcast. But I think we're all such fans of what's going on. And these, there's so many good players, and both these teams are elite level teams in the league. It's just fun, and you can't help but get caught up in it. And, I used to live for those drives as a player. You wanted to be in the huddle with the ball, man. The sun's going down. It's dark. It's the fourth quarter. You're going to make the play. That's everything you live for. So now as a broadcaster, we dream for those endings. I find it funny, after every game, I still can't put my finger on it. You probably have a lot more experience this than I do. It's like, Olsen hates the Cowboys. Olsen hates the Eagles. Both teams thought I hated them. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I guess if both teams thought I was favoring the other team and both teams thought, then maybe I did a good job.
Yes.
I cheer for that. I cheer for the losing team to have the ball in the fourth quarter, and let's talk ball. Let's talk situational. Let's figure out how does this team win? How does this team hold on? I don't care who's winning, what team gets the penalty, what not. I just find it funny, when you kind of get some feedback after the game that it's like you hate every team in the game and you love every team in the game, depending on which side you're on. I'm like, I guess that means you were pretty fair.
Yeah, stay off that Elon Musk contraption. That's nothing but that's just bad news for all of us.
Those people let us know. I'll tell you what.
They do. They've been letting me know for 30 years I stink. Believe me. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.